still do 7 NUFC Matters shows for free a week. But if you want to support the channel, there are a few ways of doing it. Hit the like button on each live broadcast or video. This helps the channel grow. Hit the subscribe button and select the all notifications option. Hit the thanks button to buy a super sticker. You can do this on the live chat too. You can also join our Patreon page or buy us a coffee at the link in all of our video descriptions below. We are also looking for sponsors. If you want our latest advertising rates and how you can get involved, then email John at nufcmatters1892@gmail.com.
Talking to myself again, but it's the only way you're ever gonna learn. You look back and it's all in the past. I'm dwelling on the thoughts I cannot say to you. If I don't say the words, then maybe it's not true. And it feels alright when they come and say to you, you're the only
Good evening, welcome to NUFC Matters. It is the three amigos, the perfect way to kickstart your Newcastle United weekend, and it's welcome to Mitch, Buramag and George. Steve Hasty is on his travels this week, so won't be joining us tonight. Hope he gets there very safely. He's gone for a little bit of sun, sand and whatever else you can get in the Middle East, but he's looking forward to it, so hopefully he gets there in one piece. Okay, plenty to talk about tonight. We're going to start with football, which is great, and we'll be looking back on last night's game, Mitch, because first game back in the Champions League against a team that finished off in the semi-finals last year and narrowly beaten in the semi-finals at the dying embers of the game, if I remember rightly. But they were the visitors to St James's Park last night, and you know what an atmosphere, what a game. Everything the Champions League should be for me. Obviously, I've ignored most of the fallout on social media. I'll give you mine in an abridged version. 35 minutes of sheer pressure from Newcastle. Didn't result in a goal. Had it resulted in a goal, last night's result might have been completely different. Nobody, not any team, can continue that kind of pressure for 90 minutes. But we got through to half time at 0-0. Second half was a different story. It was a different Newcastle United performance. Barcelona made a couple of cheeky little changes, which resulted in them performing a lot better, which they're going to because they're a world-class side. And they got the first goal. That was the key. They got the first goal. And when they got the first goal, it changed everything. Changed the atmosphere in the ground. Don't think the lad's heads dropped, but it changed Eddie's thinking. He then went for plan B, which, wow, 4 changes. One of them a concussion change, of course. But 4 changes. And it did change the game to a degree. Newcastle still had chances. There was some great individual performances last night. Maybe didn't quite hit it up as a team last night, but there were some great individual performances. Sadly, we went 2-0 down. We got a goal late on, consolation, and it was a deserved consolation. I think most people leaving the ground felt as if Newcastle should have had at least a draw last night. But all in all, great to went on the Champions League back. Same old problem, of course. Lack of strength in depth up front probably cost us, because those in front of the goalkeeper last night, those with the chances, those who the chances fell to, Barnes and Gordon in particular, they just weren't clinical enough, unfortunately. So what was your take?
I think that's a wonderfully eloquent summary of the game, Steve, really. I think there's still a lot we can unpack further. I think we've learned a lot. I think we've learned a lot about Newcastle United. Another game this season, we're saying if we'd only had proper number 9 available for 90 minutes. If only. He had a decision to make with Gordon. He had to get 90 minutes out of Gordon because he can't play on Sunday. And so Gordon had to go the full game. And so therefore his decision is, do you start with Waldemar out front and Gordon out left and then let him drift in at the end of the game, or do you do what he did and do it the other way around? You could say, oh, well, maybe he's got it the wrong way around. We'll never know. But that was a decision he had to make. And I think that's what we were left with. Because I don't think it was a game for Asula. I think what I've seen of that team, there's a lot more to unpack from Elanga. His pace is going to crucify some teams somewhere down the line. There's no doubt about that. But I think we also have to learn how to get the best out of that. And I think we're still adapting because he's very different to Murphy. But him and Murphy, with Wissa and Waldemar there, and potentially Gordon and Barnes on the left, introduce three areas where you can almost do a 1-2 punch. Rotation, not just between games, but within games. That's actually very different. You've got Elanga's pace versus Murphy's more work rate and technicality and precision in terms of balls in. You've got a big man and you've got a more pacey little man up front. And then on the left, you've got Gordon, who's probably more technical than Barnes, and Barnes is more direct. And rotating them both within games and between games, I think, is probably going to be, again, learning how to get the best out of the combinations. I think we've learned we've got an exceptional midfield 3. We know this. Yet, you know what I think's missing? Do you know who I would love to see to chuck into the mix with those 3? Somebody like Gini Wijnaldum. Someone who could pop up with 10 goals a season from midfield. I was hoping that Willock would maybe develop into that player, and I think it's clear from last night that's now never going to happen. But for me, that, I think that's another area where we're missing something in that 11. That as good as Joelinton, Bruno and Tonali are we going to get one of them step up and do 10 goals in a season? I don't think so. Could we add somebody to that 3 to mix in with a combination of then the other 2 who could? Yes, possibly. And that might be something else they want to look at going down the line. I think I saw the future last night at one point. Not for long, but for one period towards the end of the game, the changing of the guard at the back. I think eventually, and I think it's going to happen quicker than people think, we're going to see Chow and Botman as our centre-back pairing. And I think they're going to be bloody magnificent, actually. I think they've got mobility, they've got strength, they've got ability, and they're much more comfortable on the ball. Add to them Tino and Hall. That's our back 4 for the next 5 years, potentially, if we want. And I think that gives me hope for the future, without doing down the absolute hard work that everybody made in terms of Trippier. His experience was vital in terms of Share and Byrne, who work. But the class is clearly Botman and Chow. And I think as we go through this season, I think we're going to really sort of develop and grow. And we didn't embarrass ourselves against Barcelona. For 25 minutes, Barcelona saw something they've never seen. That work rate, that press. And their back 4 and their keeper didn't like it. Their keeper mate, by the way, who's another one who was on our radar at one point, what a class act he is. I can see why Ter Stegen ain't getting back into that team. But they really didn't enjoy it and didn't know how to deal with it. However, like all quality teams, once that midfield 2 and then the back 4 understood how the press was working, they came back into the game. And then actually, I think half-time came at a good time for us, really, because they'd got it worked out and they looked more comfortable under the press. And once they started to look more comfortable under the press, that's when they started to expand their game and take control in certain parts of the pitch. It takes a real quality team to both understand how to absorb that pressure and then make it turn around the other way. And I think I haven't heard enough praise for that about Barcelona for me in the press so far. I think there are teams that would come to St James's Park and absolutely fold in that first 10 minutes and be 2-0 down and have no real way back. But, you know, that is the difference between a regular Champions League finalist and winner and not. It gives us so much to build on going forward. We can't be too downhearted about it. Yes, on another day, somebody else would have taken the chances that came Gordon's way early on. I still feel like he's trying far too hard. And so that we'll just have to let that calm down and come to pass. I think it's unfortunate that injury to Wissa really has sort of hampered her a little bit further on the striker front, because I think we did deserve a little better last night, but you cannot take anything away from Barcelona. I don't know who you guys back home had on commentary, but I suspect Alan Smith went through 14 boxes of Kleenex and co-commentary talking about Marcus Rashford. He was desperate for him to score, and when he did, and then the second time, I suspect he probably needed an IV drip to put the fluids back in his body. It was poor co-commentary, really. We had over 100 out for a game that kicks off at 11 o'clock at night over here. And I sent you a video from the bar that was about 20 minutes before kickoff. And that gives you an idea how full the bar was then. And the atmosphere was bouncing over here. And we picked up on, you know, the atmosphere that was there in the ground, most certainly. We can't be overly disappointed, and I think there's a lot to learn from there. And it's just a pity we didn't have a better solution up front.
Yeah, Jay is suggesting we take a chance with Neve, supplied by Walter Marder and Alanga, etc. Neve a better solution than Gordon, surely, he says. I mean, problem is with young players, Jay, it's whether they're good enough. And the only person really who knows whether they're good enough is the coach that's coaching them. And of course, Eddie keeps an eye on them. So he has been in and around the first team, but is he good enough? Who knows? Only Eddie, not us. So get your point. It's a valid one, but Eddie mustn't think he's ready. So we've just got to go with Eddie's opinion. Yeah, Joe, it's a 2-1 defeat, but there's no shame in that. I think Mitch's points are all valid as well, and there's still plenty that you can dissect from this game. I think even when George gets his say, I think we've all got opinions on the game. I don't think he got the wrong formation. I mean, there's very little you can do when you've only got Walter Marder as a striker. Yes, he scored at the weekend, but I think you could say, if you're going to be pedantic, you could say Eddie got it wrong because we lost. But I wouldn't say that. I would say Eddie got it right because he went for it, and the players on the night just weren't able to put the ball in the back of the net. And you've got to give credit, like Mitch did, and I didn't, to the keeper. Keeper pulled off 2 outstanding saves, one with his hand, one with his feet, from 2 wonderful balls across the box from Alanga, which Barnes on another day would have slotted in the bottom corner. Would have, he was all over the place, that keeper, and a great performance. But yeah, what was your take on the night overall, Joe?
It was my first visit up this season for various reasons, and the day was fantastic. You know, the atmosphere. We got there early afternoon, so a couple of sherbets, and it was lovely. It was great. The city was nice and relaxed. Everybody had a big smile on their face. There was lots of Barcelona colours everywhere. people shaking hands, cuddles, photographs, plenty of brown ale, being drunk, and it was really good. And then I got inside the ground and went out early, as I tend to do in a Champions League game. And first thing I want to say is war flags. I mean, it was just fantastic. The atmosphere, getting AC/DC back in there, I think really helps, doesn't it? Everyone was up for it. It was fantastic. And then the raw. And I know they were saying Barcelona players haven't heard, haven't sampled an atmosphere like that. I'd hazard a guess, neither of some of our footballers and neither of some of our fans, actually, because the noise was phenomenal. And we got into them. So whether Eddie Howe got it right or he got it wrong, should Walter Marder have played? Should he not have played? Should you always start with your strongest 11? Should you not? Was he fit? Was he, for the first 25 minutes, I thought we got it right. We got into them. We were tenacious. The pace. The first time I've seen Anthony Elanga for us, and he's like a sprinter. And I agree with Mitch. I think he'll terrorise people. Once he gets settled and once he gets into it. And yes, chances are missed. Arguably, we go 2 up. And if we go 2 up, you're possibly talking about a very different football match. But as always, football matches are played in phases. And I think after that first 25 minutes, when we hadn't managed to get a goal, Barcelona settled into it. And I'm going to make a statement, and I don't say it lightly. I just sat in awe watching them. I've never seen a football team do that to us before. And we talk about our midfield. We talk about, arguably, have we got the best midfield, in England? Possibly. We certainly haven't got the best midfield in our Champions League group. I'll tell you that for a fact, because that was stunning. They were absolutely stunning. The angles, the way they came short for each other, very few wasted passes, and we tried and we huffed and we puffed. And second half, we couldn't get anywhere near them. We didn't lay a glove on them. Yes, Anthony Gordon scored eventually. But Frankie de Jong, what a footballer. And you can see why. They don't lose many football matches, because I thought they were absolutely stunning. We've done a job on Lewandowski. I must admit, Fabian Schär, I thought before he went off, was fabulous. He was all over him. But a bit of quality, and I think that was the difference in the game, wasn't it? We put some stunning balls into the box and we don't finish them. They put one ball into the box and Marcus Rashford puts it away, and to be fair to him, what a finish. And I wouldn't have been adverse to him playing for Newcastle. I know his attitude's questionable, but his skill certainly isn't. And that second one, you could have put Paul, Ramsdale, Dubravka, Given, Cernacek, Willie McFall, and whoever you wanted in the back of the net. They weren't saving that. It was a stunning strike. So you'll get no arguments in terms of that. The result, we lost 2-1 against Barcelona. The point is, we were actually playing Barcelona. And we can't forget that. We were there, we were doing it, we're back in the Champions League. We didn't get mugged. We certainly didn't get beat 4-5, 6-0. And it was interesting talking to the lads after the game, because there was almost that sense of disappointment. And then you have to remind yourself, how can we be disappointed with that? We've played one of the best sides on the planet. We're hardly Champions League regulars at the moment, are we? We haven't really got an embedded forward line to think of, and we certainly didn't show ourselves up. So I was dead proud of the lads. I was dead proud of the fans. Dead proud of the lads. I was glad to see Anthony Gordon get his goal, because there's a lot of talk beforehand, and even Eddie Howe said that wasn't just a big game for Anthony Gordon. This is a big season for Anthony Gordon, and he huffed and he puffed. And I thought as soon as we put him back out into his natural position, he suddenly started and making those runs and chopping inside and causing a bit of mayhem. When he plays up front on his own, he's not a centre forward. He'll probably be the first to admit that. We desperately need Johan Wissa fit is what we need. But he's not. So does the rest for Walter Marder kind of, put us in a slightly better stead to Sunday, which I'm sure we'll come on to. I was impressed with him, although he didn't see much of the ball, but the touches that he did get, he was involved in the nice play that led to Gordon's goal. That'll do him the world of good. And we didn't get embarrassed. So we'll cause teams problems, whether we're good enough to qualify or not, who knows? But it's all work in progress, isn't it? We're back in the Champions League, and we're back enjoying Champions League night. So fair play to Rashford, fair play to Barcelona. Absolutely wow. But on to the next one. We'll be all right.
Yeah, I would say your assessment's great. I mean, people in the chat are agreeing with most of what we've said so far. You made an interesting point about the passing. At times, and I've watched about 70 minutes of it back so far. I've got the last 20 minutes to watch plus the interviews again. But the passing at times was slightly off. But I think Barcelona forced us into those kind of errors last night as well, just with the way that they dominated that midfield area, especially in the back end of the first half and the start of the second half. It was stunning. It was. Yeah, I sat literally and watched in awe, like you just described it. I watched in awe as they, at times, some of the stuff they played, but there was that kind of, that mistake made, misplaced pass here, misplaced pass there. But it's going to happen. It is going to happen. And again, you rightly said, we aren't used to being in the Champions League. Our aim really this season would be, to get out of this qualification league and get into the next stage. Barcelona, after last year's departure in the semi-finals, will want to win this. They're in it to win it this year. And I'm not saying before somebody jumps down my throat and says, Newcastle should be in it to win it as well. Yeah, we are, but let's be realistic.
We're nowhere near that level. Absolutely nowhere near it from a quality perspective.
Exactly.
George, Steve, I tell you what, there's going to be better teams than us absolutely thumped off Barcelona this season.
Yes.
There's no doubt about that. And the French right back everybody's talking about, by the way, is the one that last season was pictured on social media wearing a Newcastle shirt out and about on the town, if I remember right.
But
do you know what? They're genuinely a class act. And we haven't disgraced ourselves against them. Yes, it's frustrating. I'm frustrated because if only that had we taken those chances early on, we wouldn't be talking about should Waldemar have started. We wouldn't be talking about Anthony Gordon this and should Elanga have come off that and what have you. It'd be a totally different conversation. But I'm still, even if we had scored a couple early on, they would have come back at it. They would have come back at it bloody hard. And we could have had another 3-2, 5-4, whatever on our hands. It might have been poking the bloody dragon too early, but it honestly, there's better teams than us are going to get an absolute hiding off that Barcelona team this season on the evidence of what I saw last night.
Yeah, I agree. George, you've patiently waited for your say. What a night it was, mate. I mean, George rightly mentioned war flags as well. I mean, they said there was going to be something special. They weren't lying, were they?
No, not at all. It was absolutely brilliant, and congratulations to them. They know just how to turn it on. They know just how to turn it up. So by the time the teams came out, the place was jumping. And they're a big part of that. We can't get away from that. So well done to them, absolutely. And you're probably tired of me saying that what I like now is it's taken me back to when I was just a little boy going to the match with my family. Because we didn't just go for the match. It was the whole day was an occasion. And last night was an occasion for me. It started before 5 o'clock in the Irish Centre with the gang. And went on from there. It was absolutely brilliant night, and coming into about, I think it's the 80th year as a supporter, I was as proud of my team last night as I could be. They didn't let us down in any way. And Anthony Gordon's not a centre forward, but we've got a player there. If Eddie Howe said play in goal, he would play in goal. Not like some others that we could mention, who wouldn't even get off their backsides to train and played on their Xboxes. So I'm not going to be overcritical of Anthony. And all the other thing is, as a football fan, it was a pleasure to see the football of a team that's obviously the best in the world, best club team. I've never seen football like that, and yet we matched them as hard as we could. We did a different style, but it was still good to see how we matched them. And absolutely, lads are right. Our first 20, 25 minutes were crucial. And as well as Gordon's miss and Barnes particularly miss, there also 2 other runs that Elanga had on the goal 18 months ago for Nottingham Forest. He would have buried them. He wouldn't have wasted them on poor crosses. He would have buried them for Nottingham Forest. So when he settles down, I think the lads are right. He'll be a different player. And in the Premier League, he's going to frighten some people to death. There's no doubt about it. But it had to happen for us with the press. Barcelona couldn't cope with it in the first 20, 25 minutes. It came... They just didn't understand it at first, but once they did and started to play their football, well, it was just a different game. Something I hope, well, I know he'll watch because he'll watch the video all the time. The other thing that intrigued me is that every one of their players, from goalkeeper to centre forward, that touch on the ball, that first touch was just sublime. You know, there was never any doubt about people bouncing balls away. As soon as they got the ball at their feet, they were away. And the midfielder, De Jong, is got to be up there with the best in the world at the moment. The other thing is that I was slightly concerned the way in which they were able to turn our players at will, in a way in which never happens in the Premier League. We were getting turned, you know, and the only thing that saved us sometimes was the speed of recovery of Tino Livramento and others that brought us back, and especially when he started to get help from others. But yeah, it was just a pleasure to see them play and well, real football. And the lads are right. We didn't disgrace ourselves. We still pressed them right to the end. And I've got to say, in another 100 games, that last-minute shot of Tonali's, had it gone anywhere but into the goalkeeper's hands, it was in the back of the net. And if it had been the other way around, you can guarantee one of ours would have stuck his arse out and it would have gone in the back of the net on a rebound. But that doesn't happen to us. But all that aside, so thrilled to be part of it last night, and Steve's in the air at the moment. I'm sure he's relaxing. His left side will be badly bruised because he sits next to me, and he was getting all the claps and the thumps down his left side when things were happening on the pitch. And we had a great night. It was a pleasure to be with him as always, and the atmosphere, the people around as well. You know. The people that we've sat beside for, God, I don't know how long we've had those seats now, but from the beginning, there's some of them been there all the time with us. And the guy in front of me was there with his grandson, for God's sake. And you couldn't want to take a boy to a match that with so many good things in it. You know, our press, our energy, their skill, their ability to turn things, and all the rest of it. And Marcus Rashford, you know, people criticise his attitude. I don't think if his attitude was anywhere other than football, he would be in Barcelona's team. Manchester United fans must be bleeding out of their eyes watching that lad do that to us when he could be doing it for them. And the only reason he's not doing it for them is because of their new owner, Mr. What's his name, who wants to save all the money. He wanted Rashford out of the door because of his salary. No other reason. I don't subscribe to this attitude thing with Rashford. One thing about Rashford, when he was at his lowest ebb at Manchester United, he was as fit as a butcher's dog. And what did we experience when our bloke went on strike? He went into home, played on his Xbox, and left himself so unfit he couldn't play 45 minutes for his country. Marcus Rashford didn't. So, yeah, I'm not sure about that attitude thing. I think that was nicely manufactured by Manchester United and their cohort of supporters in the press. And it was, who was going to stop that? You're right, Steve. Who was going to stop that second shot? It nearly took the roof off the net. It was so hard and direct. And everything about last night, except the result, it was great, absolutely marvelous. And I'm not going to complain about anybody. As to the future, Neil's absolutely right. I don't know what we paid for Chiao, but it was a bargain. Gosh, him and Botman, they're only in their 20s, for God's sake, and the two fullbacks are as well. I'd argue that's for back four for the next 10 years, not 5 years, if they look after themselves. So yeah, all those good things came out of a disappointing result, but a marker for the rest of the Champions League. Remember, that's what first game. There are other teams at home watching that and thinking, good God, we've got to go there. We've got to go there and face that. Well, welcome, come. We're waiting for you. Let's have you. And we'll all be there waiting as well. But great night for Newcastle. Great night for the fans. Great night for the team. Great night for the city.
Okay, there's a comment in the chat which is preempted what I was going to ask you lads tonight, actually, which is Philip Shuttleworth. He says, it showed last night. We've won one game in the last 14 going back to last season. The atmosphere was out of this world. Barcelona were much better than us all over the park, especially midfield. Now, Philip, again, I don't think they were much better than us all over the park. I'll hold you up on that, Phil. It's all about opinions, of course. That's your opinion. My opinion is Newcastle competed with them. It's there. I've watched it again on TV, and the eyes didn't deceive us. For 36 minutes, Newcastle were the better team. After that, Newcastle just couldn't match those energy levels and ended up dropping back, further back. They were defending on the edge of the box for the last 10 minutes of the first half. So to say that they were much better than us all over the park, I would take offence at that if I was Eddie Howe, because I think they did well, but they weren't at their best. Definitely not their best. Question I was going to ask tonight, Mitch, is because that stat is quite damning, really. We've only won one game in the last 14, if you add last season's results. Now, after the Lord Mayor's show, after we've won the Carabao Cup, you would expect maybe, a little bit of lethargy and a bit of complacency and whatever come into it. But we had the Champions League to chase. Ultimately, we achieved our goal. We got to the Champions League. Although on the last day it was more down to good fortune, although it is over the course of the season. But we ended up getting beaten. Villa blew it rather than us blowing it. But yeah, one game in the last 14. Do you think Eddie will be concerned about that?
No. Look, there's one common denominator for the majority of that period. And the more I look at it, and the more I look back at the tail end of last season, the common denominator is problems with Alexander Isaac. And there's more questions being raised about his attitude and whether he was really determined and switched on in the last few games of the season. And then we've had this season disrupted by the most ridiculous pantomime. If you look at all the stats that matter, and actually some of the stats that I detest, like XG and all that kind of stuff, which I'm not convinced really gives you much more than any other the stats that you can pull out of the air. We should be doing better than we are. And we've had chances. You can't say we haven't, because we have. And stretching it across 2 seasons, I think it's looking for a problem.
Okay.
Whereas we should be focused on what we're seeing with our eyes, and or we're seeing a team that isn't creating chances. I worry far more when you're not creating chances. It's like when you've got a striker who's not scoring. If he's used to scoring, they go through barren periods. But if they're still getting into the right positions and they're still getting the chances and they're not going in, it'll click, it'll come. I worry more if they're not getting into the positions and they're not getting the chances and they've suddenly disappeared. Interestingly, like Alexander Isaac did towards the end of last season. Yeah, now I should know to trust what I'm seeing with my own eyes more often, perhaps. But I think certainly I can't say I'd be worried, because I think the atmosphere in the camp's good. There doesn't seem to be negativity there. There's that's all gone now. Quite the opposite. You go through periods where it just doesn't click. and it's how you come out of it and how you ride it and how you put it together. And we're doing the right things, I think, in general. You know, it's not like we're committing horrendous mistakes. We've had a little bit of that in pre-season. You know, come back to the Tottenham pre-season game, we didn't even look like we were in the game. Like we were, you know, realised there was a match on for 17 minutes. And then all of a sudden, bang, change immediately. So I don't find it too worrying. I get it. I understand why, you know, the doom mongers have started including friendlies in that run and all kinds of, you know, you just can't read that into it. I think if we were doing the wrong things and we were struggling without making chances, that would be more of a problem.
Okay, that's a valid point. Yeah, what's your thoughts, Joe? Should we be worried that we're not on a winning run?
Two ways of looking at it, I suppose, isn't it? You know, if your glass is half full, you take what Neil said there and say, yeah, absolutely, there isn't a problem. It will come. Of course it will. We're a fantastic football team, so of course it's going to come. If your glass is half empty, yeah, 14 games and 1 win, that's terrible. And if that becomes 20 games, 23 games, 26 games, you know, firmly tongue-in-cheek with my mates Ian and Paul, at what point do you start looking at the manager, as ridiculous as that sounds? Because fundamentally, you know, people go for less, don't they? And we're a big club now with lots of money riding on it. I'm not suggesting he's going to get sacked, of course. But, yeah, 1 win in 14, it is a bit of a worry. We are notoriously slow starters. We started last season, we didn't start overly well, I seem to remember. And then all of a sudden, someone pushes a button and, you know, we just end up slaughtering teams, don't we? We've got the same footballers, barring one, whose name I won't mention. But we have been massively affected by it. I said at the time, he's a world-class centre-forward and he doesn't play for us anymore. So, you know, we're going to miss that kind of clinicalness in front of goal, aren't we? But somebody's got to step up and somebody's got to do it. One of the other things I was talking about last night was, you know, other than Sandro in the 97th minute, we seem a bit shot shy. We're trying to walk the ball in. We're looking for that perfect goal, aren't we? You know, and Mitch's plea for can we have a 10-goal midfield midfielder? They've got to have a shot first before they put the ball in the back of the net. So, you know, are we a bit anxious? Are we overthinking it? Are we trying too hard? I certainly think Harvey Barnes looks like he's trying too hard. So does Anthony Elanga and definitely Anthony Gordon. Do we need to just get back into that fluid? Let's relax a little bit and it's going to come. Because when we are flowing, you know, and I'll put Jacob Murphy in there, there wasn't many teams better than us last season going forward. So the same people are there, barring one. You know, the goals, you score goals, you win games. So let's start having to think about scoring some goals. Let's start having a shot. You know, Bruno, you're 25 yards out. Just try, just have a go, Joe Linton, do it. It's either going to end up like Rashford or it's going to end up in the Gallagher end, but at least we've had a shot, you know. So, yeah, let's start having a pop. Let's start having a little bit more confidence where we need it, and the wins will absolutely come and we'll be fine.
Yeah, I mean, I was going on about that prior to the game. Have shots on target. We're not doing enough of that. You judge 1 win in 14, friendlies or not. It's a habit to get into, isn't it? Winning. You know, are you concerned?
Not as much as people would like us to be. I see nothing that makes me feel concerned or upset. In fact, watching the press conferences the other day, Eddie's and then our captain's press conference at the same time, I give that lad the lickings of a dog when they made him captain because I didn't think he was a captain. After that press conference the other day and watching how he engages with the other players in the room where they have the food, where he never misses anybody, and in that press conference where he answered press conference in 4 bloody languages very competently, and I thought, well, if there's something wrong, it's certainly something wrong with him. He's just proud to be Newcastle United, and that'll transfer onto the field, because he'll be making sure that the other 10 that's playing with him are proud to be with Newcastle United. I've got no doubt about that. So yes, it's disappointing, but I'm not going to say concerned, because there's so much good. Even last night, there's so much good happening. It's one of those occasions. I think when it sorts itself out, somebody will get a real shellacking. Is my favourite word, and I'll be able to enjoy it. So no, I think it's no more than disappointing for me. But I'm not at the point of being concerned and upset. I see nothing in what's happening, nothing in what people are saying, nothing in the body language of players that say they're not happy to be where they are and all that sort of thing. It's a happy place at the moment, and that'll get interpreted on the pitch in not too distant future, in my opinion.
Okay, just getting away slightly from last night's game, although it does include last night's game, because these were evident. Little FB comments: a good dead ball tactic. Tonali playing the ball directly deep into touch from the kickoff, then a tight mark, the throw in. I mean that happened a couple of times last night, Mitch. But we've also seen Tyne Livramento being, given the opportunity to try out his long throw. So we're talking about the set pieces in the game as well. People talking in the chat about the set pieces and saying that they were awful. 2-1 with 7 minutes to play. Why are we trying to play out from the back, stick Burn up front and Nick and launch it? I mean, to be fair, Burn did go front at one point, Again, I haven't reached that part of the game, but I do remember it last night. He did push on a couple of times. But yeah, set pieces, Mitch, and the rebirth of the long throw. It's not just Newcastle who's doing it. Other teams are doing it. And this kick-off where immediately now we're kicking the ball out to play towards the corner flag to get the other team under pressure.
Did it opening game of the season?
Yeah.
And much people making unfair jokes about somebody having a bet on the time of the first throw. Because Wimbledon did do that once. But it's a weapon to use. Throws. If you look back at the people who played used to use long throws, particularly people like Bolton and Stoke, it was about the pace, angle, and flight of the ball was different to floating the corner in. Yeah. It comes in lower and it comes in, faster, and it is more difficult to defend. I think if you look at what the set piece coach were doing at some corners, this playing it short and then getting it in is about changing the angle of delivery. And we'll go through fads like this in football from time and time. The whole concept of the inverted wingers came from statistics that said more goals were scored from in-swinging crosses than there were from out-swinging crosses. So the easiest way to deliver more of them was to invert your wingers and have them cutting back in on their favoured foot and swinging the ball inward. But sometimes that can be overdone, which is where, again, I mentioned Wimbledon, their long ball game came from a concept the FA were going with, was called POMO, position of maximum opportunity. That said that most goals were scored from moves of 3 passes and less. And so the concept was hoof it up from the goalkeeper, there's pass number 1, headed down, pass number 2, bang, goal is number 3. They can get distorted when things like that happen for me. Again, this obsession with XG, I suspect you'll probably find some of the statisticians looking at angles of delivery have different stats from in-swing and out-swinging, whether it's delivered this way or that way. The thing that frustrates me more than ever, and what I think you can do better with a long throw than you can with an altered angle corner, is beat the first bloody man. That's when it breaks down for me. The amount of times I get frustrated because we hit the first bloody man and the ball's out the way of the box. We have weapons, and I tell you what, when we've got like a back four potentially where you've got Botman or Burn, Chow in the mix, you've Waldemar in there, Joe Linton in there, we potentially can chuck a big unit out, and the delivery's so important. And I think what I'm seeing them doing, I think we're still learning and adapting to a change in the way they're being asked to deliver the ball. And I think that's why it looks a little bit all over the place at the minute. I'm hopeful that it'll just click one day in a game and we'll score maybe 3 or 4, you know. But at the end of the day, I think we're seeing an adaptation to change, and stats getting chucked into the mix where it really just irritates the life out of me, because sometimes they're just overused. Because then, you know, the game, this concept of playing in-swinging corners became inverted wingers. Then everybody's playing it, and to the point where I don't think people understood why they were doing it. It was just seen as the done thing. It was a trendy thing to do. Long throws, you need somebody who's decent to deliver the ball in and work on that. And if Tino's the way, that's fine. It's something that has to be worked on and training more, because to get it right, what you need is a flat, fast throw, probably just above head height, and that becomes something very difficult for defenders to manage, because the kind of ball movement that if you touch it the wrong way, it flicks off you and it's in the back, and then before you know it, as a defender, the horrible, horrible, horrible things to defend.
Yeah. Okay, Joe, thoughts on the return of the long throw? Mitch talking about those wonderful purists of 90s football, Stoke.
I've just
Glory to lab, they call them.
Yeah. Very, very effective as well. Very, very effective. Yeah, I've just said it. You know, it's about scoring goals, isn't it? And half the time the ball's got to be in the box, hasn't it? You know, so and as Mitch said, you know, we've got a pretty big team. You know, there's some big lads in there. It frustrates the life out of me whether it's beating the first man. My other pet hate is the ones that go straight into the goalkeeper's hands when you can put it anywhere in the area and it just goes straight there, and you know that we've lost it again. I don't know whether it comes back to, as I was saying earlier, we seem to be trying to walk the ball in the back of the net lately, and you know, sometimes the directness. If you speak to my old fella, he'd have 4-4-2, big fellas, just launch it, get rid of it, smash it down the pitch, and you know, he still lives there. But there's something in that sometimes, isn't it? Because it's called mixing it up. I don't think, you know, we've got this absolute master head coach, haven't we? You know, absolute top of his game, Eddie Howe. And yet we can't seem to take a corner, and we struggle a little bit with a free kick. And I actually thought some of the corners were slightly better. I thought Anthony Elanga whipped some very, very dangerous balls in last night, but unfortunately to no avail. So, you know, do we have to get a bit cuter with it? Does it always have to be Kieran Trippier? You know, it's so predictable in terms of, you know, a free kick anywhere within 30 yards. Trippier. I haven't seen him put one over the wall for a long time, although it's marvellous when he does. Can we get a bit more creative? Because we've got some very, very creative footballers. But I suppose that happens on the training pitch, doesn't it? I think the other thing that we've stopped doing, do you remember when you were at school and you were always told if they leave one on the halfway line, you have to have 2 defenders back, and if they have 2, you have 3. It's you know, there's 22, there's 21 people in the box now when there's a corner. You know, nobody seems to be taking a risk when we're defending a corner. Nobody's coming out. Nobody's standing on the halfway line and making the opposition think a little bit. Again, with the pace that we've got. So, you know, I can sit here all day long and be an armchair manager and say Howe needs to get him on the training pitch, and we need to do this. I know some teams have got set piece coaches, haven't they? You know, I don't know whether we've got one, but
we just hired one.
Danish lad in.
Brilliant. He's earning his corn then. But as for the long throw, why not? But why not? Why get it in the box, man? You know, but when Big Nick's playing, and as Neil said, when Big Dan's up there, shake it up a little bit. But frustration. How many times do you hear, I can't believe he's hit the first man and he earns £130,000 a week? I can go and play on Sunday morning and whip a worldie in. You know, it's absolutely not a problem. So yeah, it does. It frustrates the life out of you. And lots of goals used to be scored directly from corners. it's almost becoming a bit of a dying art, isn't it? You don't really see many people. I know Big Dan did at Wembley, obviously, but you used to see it quite often, and now you don't. So whether that's a change in the game, whether it's this continental ticky-tack style where you're knocking it and trying to walk it in or what, I don't know. But there's a place for directness, and maybe it wouldn't do us any harm at the minute.
So anyhow, if you're listening, there's the email address, nufcmatterspodcast@gmail.com.
Yeah.
If you want somebody who can knock a free kick in and knock a corner in, Joe's your man. I'll negotiate the contract.
Can you play with glasses on?
George, now throw-ins, your favourite topic of conversation.
I was just going to say,
the long throw, what do you make of that?
Well, I'll tell you what I think of that. If linesmen knew out about foul throws, every long throw that Tino Livramento takes is a foul throw because he never has his feet in the right place. You know what I mean? Yeah, that's how simple it is for me. On the other hand, if we're going to take a long throw, it's got to be of the type that Neil just talked about, coming in like an Exocet missile at about just above head height. That's what causes the difficulty. The long lob allows the goalkeeper to get it more times than not. And the other thing that frustrated me last night about them and about some of the corners, why do you have Dan Burns standing next to the goalkeeper? When he go back to his goal at Wembley, he was on the edge of the bloody penalty area running in. He wasn't standing next to the goalkeeper. And more than once last night, he was standing next to the goalkeeper. And what happened? They got a free kick for him pushing the goalkeeper. So, yeah, the directness I approve of, and that's good. The other thing that made me smile is this kick-off where we kick the ball into the far like a rugby kick, kick it to the corner flag, so they've got to take a throw in and puts them under pressure. How many times have our side CN complained about us that when we get a throw in our defensive half, if it's more than 10 yards away from the byline, we take the throw in, and 20 seconds later the opponents are shooting on our goal. That's how bad we are at it. So I can see why Eddie might like that, because we aren't very good at it either. So yeah, it's and I agree with Joe. It's time that we've got Italy's, under 23 captain who takes all the dead balls for Italy and takes them very, very nicely. Never gets a look in for us. I mean, is it time Kieran Trippier was given a bit of competition? I think it is, because there's got to be more there. But there is evidence that our dead ball man is doing things. There's no doubt about that, and I'm pleased about that. But the long throws, great, but needs a bit of work on the technique. That's all, as far as I'm concerned. But with the players we've got around, I mean, nobody's mentioned Fabian Schär, one of the most dangerous headers for us around the box in the last couple of seasons. Has been Fabian Schär. He's got some really sneaky headers in, and why not? But it needs a bit of work. I approve of it. It's good stuff, and can be thrilling just as nicely as the tippy tap football can be, and let's have more of it. But I wouldn't be against it. It's anything that makes the other side think. It's got to be worth a try, as far as I'm concerned, and that certainly has made people think. The sheer panic on faces when you see Byrne and Botman and all of that, and Schär tripping up into the penalty area, and now with our big centre forward as well. It does worry them, so let's throw it at them more. But as I say, let's please make sure that Tino Livramento is actually taking a legal throw when he takes his long throw, because at the moment he isn't. His feet are all wrong.
Okay, got about 5 or 6 minutes left, so we'll get to the break. So I think it's time to put the disclaimer in. Any tweets that offend you tonight are not the responsibility of NUFC Matters or the people on the show or me. It's from our wonderful viewers. So if you are easily offended, probably best to leave the podcast now for 5 minutes and come back to watch the adverts. Thank you, as always, to everybody who has sent these in. And Steve is on a flight. He has just sent us a picture direct from the flight. He says he's got to spend 14 hours sitting on the aircraft. There, plenty of choice on there. That's a great idea, by the way, isn't it? If only the powers of AI technology. And sadly, we've got a death to report. It's never nice when you lose somebody. Colin Grimshaw from Halifax, inventor of the Tyne machine, has died. Rest in peace. To 1438. Some jobs create unnecessary issues. But let's go to the circus. What's the worst that can happen? Trapeze artist with diarrhea shits on 23 people. That's exactly what happened at a circus in Russia this week. And I tried to walk like an Egyptian this week, lads. Now I need to see a chiropractor.
Oh.
Yes, George. During World War II, this is a great story and a true story. The Germans actually built a fake wooden airfield with a wooden aircraft, vehicles and hangars in order to trick the Allies. The RAF, having known of the secret project for months, patiently waited for them to finish. And then they dropped a single fake wooden bomb on it, which is actually in a museum. I love a bit of history. I love that story. So thank you for sending that in. And somebody been trimming their bush this week, lads? I think it's looking a lot smarter. It's obviously, it is, we're getting into the last few weeks now with the green recycling bin. That's why they've done that, but they've done a good job. And you do know I like a good book on here. Thank you for sending us this one. 50 Ways to Eat Cock. A healthy chicken recipe with balls. Wonderful. Jimmy, something tells me that isn't a book that you can actually buy in the shops, but I'll give you the benefit of the doubt because you provide us with a lot of tweets. And one of those Twitter tweets as well, just cheated on my test and got 98. Yacht replies, better than when you cheated on me and got an STD. This guy seems to be a running joke with this girl on Twitter. A one from Viz, we'll love these. Tell her about it. Tell her all your crazy dreams, sang Billy Joel in 1983 in his hit single. I advise readers not to take his advice literally, however, especially if your crazy dream involves being pleasured by your girlfriend's mother while her father fixes a puncture on your bike. Wake Ford, now in a bedsit in Chelmsford. And I do love this one. A great photo here of Tom Daly and Noah Williams about to perform the very difficult inward 2.5 somersault, 1.5 twist with Pike.
Yeah.
And I was in a coffee shop yesterday, lads, when I suddenly needed to fart. The music was really loud, so I timed it with a beat. After a few songs, I felt better. Finished my coffee and realised I had my headphones in. And following on from that one, Fred's farting fun upsets mother on laundry day. Another one of those ladybird books that'll never be published. And where's the best place to stand during an earthquake? Of course, it's here. But fill your pockets full of 2 pences. Must be a nightmare to sing happy birthday to her. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. She's a Chinese chemist as well, apparently. This sign, I did quite like this. We do come into a few signs on this show. I want you all to know I read your Facebook posts while pooping.
Yeah.
I think we've all been there, to be honest. And unfortunate sign placement. You think somebody would have seen that when they took the photograph. Maturing in marriage is realising no couple actually cuddles to fall asleep. They say goodnight, roll over. One goes into a corner and farts all night, while the other scrolls their phone until their eyes go blurry. That's a pretty accurate description, that, I think. And talking about beds, let the dog sleep in bed with you, they said. It'll be fun, they said.
Oh.
And I'm having problems with my hearing. Can you describe the symptoms? Marge has blue hair and Homer is a fat guy. And when the insurance company wants a diagram of the accident. Very good. And Sniffer Dog has found crack this week. And this was an actual store in America. Get your mouth around this meat. In effect, not the best advertising for the thick stick, is it really? And someone just accused me of plagiarism. Their words, not mine. And I think I put this up a few weeks back. This is a completely separate Facebook request. He's back again, lads. 2 friend requests via TV stick. I'm sure everyone else has had this, but who is this guy? I don't know him. Why is he got more than one account? I love this. Mood swings, lad. And here's Robert before, and here's Robert after. In only 6 weeks, Robert lost his glasses. And you seem happier. Thanks. I uploaded our whole argument to ChatGPT and it said I was right. And my wife asked me to get one of those drinks with her name on it. I bought her a can of Monster. That's how the fight started. And my wife and kids are upset because I put ginger in their curry. They love that.
Oh, God.
And here's Stevie Wonder. Isn't she lovely? Very good. And I'm not an expert, but I don't think Karen's going to make it, lads. And back in the good old days when kids looked 45.
Look at that hair.
I know, it's brilliant, isn't it? It's 60 days to look like. And when your piss separates into 2 streams and you can't get both of them in the toilet. Definitely been there. Take that, criminals, on this sign. No crime, 8 a.m. till 6 p.m.
Yeah, that'll tell them.
And there's a good beer for you, Master Beer. Want to stay at the new hotel? Why not try the Austin Motel? Love is all you need. Very good. And here's some transfers. I love the fact that look at the age of the woman taking that photograph. Yes, CUNT transfers. Excellent. And mourners have gathered for Fanny. Hope it was a good turnout. Person who tweeted that, all I ever got at funerals was a sausage roll and a cup of tea, he says. And we've got a couple of lookalikes this week. Another great actor ruined by drugs. Predator. And here's Angela Rayner at her new job.
Oh, God.
And another lookalike. So it begins. One of the very best generations will get this.
Yeah.
Very good. I love the Acme box. A couple of Star Wars ones, as always, this week. Look at that.
Clash that.
Very good. And we've got a Star Wars tattoo this week. Chewbacca.
Wow.
Very good. And here's a very rare black kangaroo, lads. And I've just arrived at one of those Swiss suicide clinics. Do you know what the bastards have given me for breakfast? Cheerios. And oranges are actually male or female. If it squirts in your eye without warning, it's a male. And if it's bitter for no reason, it's a female. Hey, you've learned something on the show tonight. And does anyone have Oxfam's number? I've just got my water bill for £278. Never heard on TV that Oxfam can supply a family with water for just £2. Well, that's it. I'm swapping suppliers. And when she comes home and you've already run the hot water for her. Isn't that a nice romantic scene? And I'll finish with these. Finish with these 2. Mark Byers, well done. You've actually got one into the final mix. Me, I have a 1-foot cock.
Oh.
Show me. Me.
Huh.
Thanks, Mark. That passed the suitability test. Just. We'll finish with these 2 ones from Viz. My husband always joked that if he won the lottery, he would eat a Wolseley and for his tea every day. Imagine my surprise when he did win the lottery And instead of eating a Wolves Viennetta for his tea every day, he left me and the kids, bought a Maserati, and went off with a blonde woman half his age with really big breasts. Audrey Fraggle, rock on wine. With reference to my ex-wife letter above, I'd just like to inform the morning bitch that whilst the bulk of what she says is true, I do eat a Wolves Viennetta for my tea every day off my new bird's 38 double D breasts. How do you like them apples, Audrey? Reg Fraggle, Cheshire. If you've got any tweets, then please send them over to me at our usual email address, nufcmatterspodcast1892@gmail.com, and we will do our best to decipher the ones that we can get on here with the disclaimer. But please come over. We're running short, Jimmy, and get us a few more over. Halfway through the show, time for the ads. A big thanks to all our sponsors, Skips and Bins. You can find them at their website, skipsandbins.com. Contact them at www.skipsandbins.com/contact. Say hello to low-cost waste disposal with pay-as-you-go and contract waste management. A big thanks to Mr. Vicky's Sauces, handmade in Cumbria. You can find them at their website, mrvickies.co.uk. Email info@mrvickies.co.uk or telephone 01768 210 102. Thanks to our fanzine sponsor, United Group Travel. There are no strangers on our tours, just friends you haven't met yet. 2 crew driver and courier, local family company, 3-star plus quality hotels and no interchanges. Hot and cold snacks and drinks available on the coach, all excursions included. Their website, unitedgrouptravel.com. Email beverly.ugtl@gmail.com. Telephone 01670 632 460 or 0791 666 4174. Just £30 per person deposit. Thanks to Media Arts for all the help with the technical side of things. And if you like listening to us as a podcast, you can go to Sports Social Podcast Network or to iTunes, Spotify, or other podcast providers. If you want to support the show, then hit the subscribe button. It's free. We do 7 shows a week. Hit the little thumb up under the video, which is the like button, or click share to share to your social media. You can also join the channel on YouTube by hitting the join button for as little as $1.99 a month. If you want to become an NUFC Matters member, you can go to nufcmatters.co.uk. It's a £25 one-off fee. You get your pen, you get your badge, key ring, you get your beer mat and your fridge magnet and your membership card, nufcmatters.co.uk for that. And we have an event early next year, 13th of February 2026, an evening with Beardsley, Waddle and Gascoigne takes place at the Tyne Theatre and Opera House. To buy your tickets for that event, go to the box office 0191 243 1171 or Tyne Theatre and Opera House.uk. Okay, and we have got a couple of other events to point you in the direction of. We have our Christmas do sorted. An evening with Warren Barton will take place on the 21st of November 2025, 7 to 10 at the Tyneside Irish Centre. Tickets are £12. All proceeds are going to go to the Age UK North Tyneside Dementia Charity. Big thank you to Warren and Joe Allen, who will be comparing it, who've given up their time for free to support the Dementia Charity. So that should be a cracking little night. So it's Friday night, and get yourself along if you can. nufcmatters.co.uk for the tickets. And in January, as always, we've done this for the last 4 years now. An evening with Peter Beardsley will take place on the 30th of January. And again, that will be with Joe Allen for Age UK North Tyneside Dementia. So get yourself along to that as well. Both events are now up on nufcmatters.co.uk along with the Gaznet Waddle and Beardsley one. And 3 good nights shall be had by all. Before we look ahead to next week's games, of course, this weekend's game and next week's games, before we are on, we've got the Carabao Cup as well. Tom Dixon, thanks for putting this up. He's just announced, of course, that what Newcastle have announced today, 4 games in November, 4 games changed in November. So West Ham away Sunday the 2nd of November is a 2 o'clock kickoff on Sky. Brentford away Sunday the 9th, the following weekend at 2 o'clock on Sky. Manchester City at home on the 22nd of November. is a Saturday, of course. That is now a 5:30 kickoff on Sky, and Everton away the following Saturday is the 5:30 kickoff on Sky again as well. So 4 games and 4 changes for Newcastle United. Thanks for that, Tom. And yeah, Dave, I've got no answer to your question about why didn't Tino go on the pitch at half time. They don't do that kind of thing. I think we talked about this last year. The answer I think somebody got back from the club was we don't have a half-time entertainment sponsor. So that's why they stopped doing half-time entertainment. That was the answer they got back, because if you remember, Justin Lockwood used to come onto the pitch and do bits and bobs on the pitch, but they don't have a half-time sponsor at the moment, so that's why they don't do it. But Tino was on the pitch prior to the game, but of course that was just an interview with TNT, so people did see him at the game, etc. But yeah, I don't know, and again, I've got a bugbear about them not paying respect to the people who've passed away. We didn't do it at the start of the season. We didn't do it at the end. I don't know when we're doing it, apart from in the programme and online. I think it's wrong, Dave. But I don't want to go down that rabbit hole again this season. I've already had my say on that. Bill would just like you to explain, George, the throw-in scenario. He said, can you explain about Tino's throw-in? Because as long as both feet are on the ground and behind the line, the throw-in is okay. Please explain your point, George.
Well, it's easy. Occasionally, he runs up the line so quickly, he can't stop. So his front foot goes over the line and onto the pitch. It's as easy as that.
Okay.
They've got to be behind the line. They've got to be together.
Yeah. All right. That's it. Explained. I'm going to ask you about half and half scarves, Mitch. Lots of people commented about them in the chat. West Ham are banning them at their stadium, and I'm just wondering what your feeling is. I don't like them. Denise says there was loads of half and half scarves in the Irish club and in the ground around me. Somebody else said something. Mozza never saw so many half scarves last night. I think all the Barca fans had one. The Sir Bobby effect. So I think that's a positive from Mozza. I mean, there was the snide memorabilia guys were all out in force on the street selling them. They were also on sale in the club shop. I saw a bit of TV coverage on Tuesday, I think it was, or Wednesday, showing that we had half and half scarves in there. But I'm not a fan of them. I don't understand them. I mean, I'm not going to say they should be banned, etc. But I just wondered what your take is on them. I just find that a bit bizarre. I didn't like it when we did the half strip thing with. We did the half hats with Celtic Rangers back in the 80s. That was the first time I ever saw anything like that. Because, I mean, if you remember, the corner used to sing Celtic and the bloody scoreboard used to sing Rangers, and it was like against each other. And then I think the other time that we've done something like this was that bizarre half and half strip when Alan Pardew and Mr. Graham Carr, started bringing in the French team. So we had a half and half French and Newcastle strip at one point that people were wearing. So what's your view on that?
The half and half scarves, I guess it's a phenomenon of modern football support, and I personally don't understand it and don't like it. I get the argument that some people would say that for certain games it's a nice piece of memorabilia for every fan to purchase. But I couldn't bring myself to buy a half and half scarf at the Carabao Cup final with that bloody red shite on the other side of it. So I still don't get it. When there's a bit of entente between the two teams, like we have with Barcelona for a number of different reasons, I guess it kind of makes a little bit more sense. But it goes hand in hand with changing face of football support, and some of which I'll never understand. The FIFA generation. The generation where a lot more young and, talking to people out here, bringing their kids up and getting their kids into football and getting through some of the academies here. The kids are more likely to support an individual player than they are a team. And so they'll follow a player when he moves clubs. And that seemed to be okay. It's another form of support, I suppose, born out of a generation doing things with football that is anathema to us. But we see this with every change of generation. Did the lads in the butchers' coats really understand the lads in the black and white kilts? And did they really understand then understand the lads in the Fred Perry shirts and the Adidas trainers and the Farah State press? Probably not. Was there always that little bit of needle between the generations? Absolutely. Am I becoming a grumpy old man now? Absolutely. Totally. There's no doubt about that. Yeah, it's not for me. But who am I to tell somebody how to show their support? Banning them's another level unless there's evidence that they lead to problems. If there was evidence that, that there was a time somebody wearing colours was off limits. But if you're wearing both colours, what do you do? It's just alien to me. I wouldn't have one. I wouldn't thank you for one. I can't pretend to understand it. But it does seem to be a much more, common aspect of modern football support. And anywhere where there's a book to be made, there'll be people knocking them out.
Thoughts on their half and half scarves? Have you got one? Have you bought one, Joe?
I don't have one, Steve. I've never bought one. They're not for me personally, but I don't really have an opinion on it. It's a memento of the game. I think if I was 7-year-old going to see Barcelona and I wanted a keepsake, fantastic. I'd stick it up on my bedroom wall and I was there type of thing. So it's like anything in life, isn't it? If you want one, buy one. If you want to wear it, wear it. If you hate them, don't bother. But don't lose your shit over it because there's more important things happening.
Simple, short but sweet. George?
No, not for me. And Denise was right. I've never seen so many half and half scarves in the Irish Centre. But there's only one thing she didn't mention is they weren't half and half. They were 70% bloody Barcelona. They weren't half and half at all. They were, as I say, they were nearly 70%, but Barcelona and not Newcastle. And I wouldn't buy one. I wouldn't buy for any club. I'm a Newcastle fan. And if anybody's forgotten, fan is short for fanatic. And I'm a bloody fanatic, black and white. So when I'm talking about football, I don't want any other colour but black and white near my bloody skin. So, goodbye.
Bill's got a bee in his bonnet, George. George! Not sure your understanding of the throw-in law is strictly correct. I'm a bit of a pedant, if you hadn't already noticed. And Benny says, Tino's foot's allowed over the line so long as part of his foot is on the line.
Nah. No.
Okay.
Whole of your foot.
All right, we'll have to get an in-depth look at this. Somebody send us the link. Stick it down. I'm not one for rules and looking at rules, so give us an indication, somebody, and where we can find it. I would imagine it's the FA website or the Premier League website.
To be like that, his feet are wide apart.
Right. Okay. Yeah. I mean, it's an interesting debate, but I don't want to waste too much time on it. Alan, you're right as well. I highlighted this earlier. I see BBC have exposed massive black market on Premier League ticket. It's on the BBC News app. It was on the news this morning. So yeah, it's interesting. It's something we've been highlighting on the channel for a while, talking about this, sharing people's experiences. So yeah, I'm glad to see that the BBC have picked up on something that not just Newcastle fans are upset about, but fans across the country.
Before, I think for me, the biggest thing about that, Steve, because I've read it, was again comes back to a certain Mr. Todd Bowley owning one of the companies that regularly has the tickets available.
Yeah, exactly. Well, there you go. That is a good point.
Another thing off the BBC website today, by the way, that's worth just very quickly mentioning, is that Man United's borrowing crept past $1 billion today.
Ouch. Ooh. Incredible. Okay, I did promise Scunny Mag that I would read out his email this morning. Morning, Bud. He says, food for thought on gentrification of the fan base. We keep getting these surveys after the games now. Dawned on me today that under the headline question below, none of the on-pitch activity is an option. Enjoying the game, the performance, the players' work rate, etc. And I get it. They're looking at metrics that the commercial matchday team can impact. But surely they need to acknowledge that some people actually still go for the football and not for the lovely selection of overpriced food. And that's my morning rant over, he said. I just thought it would make an interesting conversation topic or not on one of the evening shows. Well, thank you, Paul. That was great. And for those of you who don't know what Paul is talking about, essentially after a game, if you've actually been to the game, Newcastle now send a survey out asking you what your feelings were about particular things. And that is what he's talking about. What did you enjoy about your visit today? The atmosphere and crowd energy, the view and the comfort of my seat, the friendliness of staff and stewards, food and drink options, ease of my entry and exit, feeling safe and supported, clean and well-maintained facilities, none of the above. So there you are. What do you find interesting about this, Mitch?
Paul's hit the nail on the head. They're not interested about your football experience. They're interested about how much more income they can potentially take from every visit. Oh, you'd like a better seat? Well, okay, we'll upgrade the seats, but that's going to cost more for your ticket. You want more food and drink options? That's fantastic. We'll give you more food and drink options, but they're going to come at a price eventually. There are some other questions in there that I'm going to have to bite my lip about where they're coming from and who they're aimed at and what they're actually directed at. And again, it's got absolutely nothing to do with football. It's got nothing to do with the fan base. It's got nothing to do with the core or majority of the fan base. Again, it comes back to us, the generation, as it were, the ones that they want to slowly put back in my box and phase out and bring something totally different in. It's really quite sad, but very predictable also. As Paul says, it's about getting certain metrics to justify certain changes. And when you're asking the questions that you want to ask in a certain way, you're going to get the answers you want. But that then justifies the lip service of
consultation.
Consultation, yes, thank you, Dad, thank you. But it's not the first time. If you remember back when Steve and I had turned the supporters club into the supporters trust, and we managed to get Bill Corcoran to hijack the then fans forum meeting to get in. Those fans forums were paid lip service meetings where genuinely all they seemed to do was sit with Derek Lambias and tell him that the chips needed to be hotter and there was some naughty graffiti on the bathroom walls and that everything else in the garden was rosy and fine. So it's not the first time and it's not the last time. The fans' consultation is always a wonderful thing to talk about, but it forever becomes to owners. And I kind of get it. I think my attitude's changed over the years as I've got older and more experienced and done some of the things we've done with the trust and with our supporters group subsequently. And I remember that was a hilarious evening as me and Steve were coming up an escalator as you were being escorted down an escalator, amongst other things. Fans' consultations are really a nuisance to clubs. It's a tick box exercise. I just wish we'd just get to the point where everybody would stand up and admit that that's the case. And just say to clubs, if you want to do something, just do it and own it. And own it and own the backlash that you get if it's not quite executed well. Have the right intentions and do things with the right intention and the right spirit. And you'd probably be surprised at how many potentially controversial changes will be welcomed. if it's done in the right way, and that isn't doing it by the back door with a list of loaded questions. It comes back to something that pissed me off last week about one of the schools having their tickets cancelled for quote-unquote safety reasons. And again, there's a question in there that you feel safe and supported. Well, I would have thought anybody coming into a home crowd supporting Newcastle United, I didn't give a monkey's who you are, what you are, where you come from. If you're sat around me and you're supporting the club, we're all together, aren't we? That's still how it works, isn't it?
Yeah.
It does frustrate me that these things seem to be taken and twisted in a certain way. And I understand what the drive is and what drives it. I disagree with it vehemently. But yeah, I think in summary, really, Paul's spot on. He sees it for what it is. It's asking questions that they know they're going to get certain answers to. That enables them to then talk about putting prices up and delivering things with more. How much more of that envelope can they push towards what's the maximum we can charge for a ticket, and how can we justify that if we make, say, the seat pads a little bit more comfortable, or if we give you, the choice of more katsu curry and chips at half time and whatnot. It's disappointing.
Yeah, Mark's right. He says, can you imagine the options on the survey in the 80s? The smell of the brewery, stench from the bogs, the warmth of piss in your pocket. Very, very good point. Whilst Mitch was talking there, I was listening to him intently, but I did manage to find the rule of throw-ins on the Premier League's website, which is quite easy to navigate. When taking a throw-in in the Premier League, players must have part of each foot on or behind the touchline at the moment they release the ball. What is a foul throw? It is a foul throw if the player lifts one or both feet completely off the ground when releasing the ball, has both feet entirely inside the field of play. Other throw-in requirements: in addition to the foot placement, a legal throw-in requires that the player faces the field of play, uses both hands to deliver the ball, throws the ball from behind and over their head, and releases the ball from the point where it left the field of play. That's it in its entirety on the Premier League's website. So that answers the question.
The foot position thing's been modified then.
Yeah.
Which that's okay, I get that. But how many throws are taken from where it went out? Not many.
Never.
And how many are just dropped from the top of their head down like that you see? Loads.
That's the worst thing. That's the worst thing.
Yeah.
No player I see puts the ball behind their head and releases the ball over the top of their head. That doesn't happen. Where does the foot end? Ian, we're not going into that, mate. I've sorted the problem out. It didn't start really bringing in where does the foot end. Okay, George, just your feelings, on what Neil was discussing there before we move on to Joe and then the match.
It's difficult to add to what Neil said. It's purely commercial. It's nothing to do with football. Paul's question is a good question, and it's a fair one. But it's all commercial. It's nothing to do about football. I mean, you've just read out about Manchester United's £1 billion debt. Did they ask a question of their supporters? Do you want bigger prawns in your sandwiches? So that's why we've got £1 billion debt. That's where it is for me. It's just a nonsense, and goes to the heart of why there's only me and Neil got tickets where we sit now. There used to be 10 of us. And then Mr. Ashley decided not to buy the little plastic dishes to put the mushy peas in. And the other 8 went home and never came back because they couldn't get a plastic dish for their mushy peas. I mean, nobody bothered to ask them if they wanted plastic dishes for their mushy peas. So they went home. That was the end of that. They've never been back. So, it's purely commercial, Paul. You're absolutely right. Nothing to do with football. Nothing to do with my enjoyment of football. Perfectly honest. Neil's point about the safety thing as well is atrocious. Whoever wrote that should be sacked on the spot. I've never seen, and there's quite a few families sit around me, any children feel anything other than delight and excitement and at the game. Even a big game last night, as I said, the lad that sits in front of me had his grandson. The lad he stood throughout the match on his seat because he's not big enough to see over the top, and the thrill on that little boy's face. You're telling me that he was ever frightened, even though that was the biggest noise he'd ever heard in his life? He just loved it all. So whoever wrote that statement should be sacked.
Do you fill these statements in, Joe? These surveys?
What are we talking about? Sorry,
yeah, sorry, mate. Paul sent us an email and basically wanted to know what our opinions were on the surveys and why the surveys that we get sent to season ticket holders never have anything to do with what's going on the pitch. He says he gets it. It's a commercial, like, you know, fact-finding mission after each match. But why did they never ask us a question about, are you happy with the way the team played and stuff?
Well, funnily enough, there's a free text box at the bottom, and I just put "how out" and just sent it. You know what? Funnily enough, I filled it in drunk last night before I went to bed. I agree, Steve. I mean, we do a lot. You know, I work in the public services, as people might know, and we do a lot of this stuff. You know, you gather in information that will create a better experience for people. But fundamentally, I don't ever really remember any feedback. What are the results? You know, so what if me and Mitch and George have got a very similar opinion on the chips? You know, do we get better chips? Do we hear about the chips? Do we, you know, I don't think we do. So I often wonder what the point of these things are, because, you know, there's only a point to them if it makes any great change. You know, were the stewards nice to you? Yeah. But what if I'd have said no? You know, the steward number 93 was a turd. You know, does he get reprimanded, or are we just fishing for information? So I don't know. You know, if there's a point to them, if the results get published and we all go, oh yeah, we're all thinking the same, we're all feeling the same about how match the experience is, and this is what the club are going to do to mitigate how we're feeling. Great. But otherwise, what's the point?
Actually, I just realised, Steve, that last night somebody must have filled a survey in about chips, because when Steve Hasty brought our chips back at half time, they were so bloody hot we had to leave them for 10 minutes before we could eat them. So maybe somebody's complaining about the chips not being hot enough.
Yeah, there's this notion, isn't it? We want to hear from the fans. We want to reach out. You know, we want to open the lines of communication, but there needs to be a point. You need to close the loop. Otherwise, you're just asking me a question. You're asking my opinion on something. So what? So it goes back down to that. You know, are we going to see some action? You know, are we being listened to, or is it a tokenistic survey to make us feel like we're being listened to? Because they're two different things.
I mean, they probably need to add a question. I mean, if they're gonna concentrate on like that kind of match day experience, maybe just thinking along the mark players, they should ask, you know, how did you manage to wipe your backside with no toilet roll in the cubicle? That would be a good question to answer. A, with your hand. B, with your kegs, or C, with your sock. You know, that's the kind of avenues you'd be going down now. Anyway, let's move on from that, and let's move on to the game at the weekend. Of course, Newcastle United back in Premier League action on Sunday. We have the benefit of a Sunday game because obviously we've just played on Thursday night, and it is Bournemouth away, and it is a 1:30 start on Sky for a 2 p.m. kickoff live on Sky Sports at the Vitality Stadium. Anthony Gordon serves the third and final game of his domestic ban. Jacob Ramsey, Johan Wissa remain sidelined through injury. Both of them are penciled in for returns on the 18th of October against Brighton. And following his replacement against Barcelona, it's expected that Fabian Schär will miss this game and the visits of Bradford City and Arsenal due to concussion protocol. There's also a doubt over Kieran Trippier because he limped off during Thursday's Champions League game. It looked like cramp to me, but I'm not a doctor, so we'll have to wait to see what Eddie says at his press conference. Bournemouth have won 3 of their 4 Premier League games so far this season. They lost the other. Maximum points came from their home wins over Wolves and Brighton, with another success at Spurs and defeat to Liverpool at Anfield. Newcastle had the not insubstantial matter of a Champions League tie against Barcelona, as I've already mentioned, on Thursday. Whilst Andoni Irola's side enjoyed a free week as a consequence of their Carabao Cup second round defeat by Brentford. Referee this weekend is Robert Jones. First appointment of the season involving Newcastle. He was last seen taking charge of the 3-0 win at Leicester in April. And on VAR is Matthew Donoghue. How have we done against Bournemouth? Well, the answer is it's not a great hunting ground for us. 2024-25, we did manage to get a 1-1 draw. The season before that, we lost 2-0. Season before that, a 1-1 draw. So the last 3 seasons, we managed to harvest a point for a couple of seasons. We got a 4-1 win back in those days, 2019-2020. But yeah, it's not always the greatest of fixtures either. But yeah, it is a tough game. So let's hear what our good friend Tyne Stackle has got to say, and then we'll head into Paul's review of the ground.
Hello everyone. What a game yesterday against Barcelona. What an atmosphere at the stadium. Now back to business in the Premier League on Sunday, away to Bournemouth, where actually this is one of the 3 clubs that Eddie Howe doesn't have a win as a Newcastle manager. The other 2 are Luton and Manchester City. Actually, he has played 6 games against Bournemouth without a win. At the same time, however, Newcastle has lost only 1 of their 7 away games at Bournemouth, with winning 2 and drawing the other 4 of them. Now, when it comes to Bournemouth, after losing against Liverpool in the first round of the Premier League, they won their next 3 consecutive games. While Newcastle, on the other hand, has drawn their 2 first away games of the season, 0-0 against Leeds and against Aston Villa. Actually, the last team to start the season with 3 consecutive 0-0 draws is Leicester City back in the 1976-1977 season. When it comes to Newcastle away form, actually, we also didn't score a goal against Arsenal last season, which makes it 3 consecutive games without a goal. The last time we went 4 without scoring was back in the season 2021 under Steve Bruce. Now, when it comes to facing previous clubs without winning, we mentioned that Eddie Howe has 6 against Bournemouth. The record there belongs to a certain Rafa Benitez, who didn't win in his 7 games against Liverpool, managing both Everton and Newcastle. Now, when it comes to players, Antoine Semenyo is the main man on the Bournemouth side. He has 5 goal involvements this year, 3 goals and 2 assists. While on Newcastle side, Nick Woltemade scored on his debut, and hopefully he can make it 2 in a row. Let's see what happens on Sunday. Away the lads.
Hi folks, Gunny Mag, Bournemouth away coming up. Let's hope we can pick up our first 3 points there in a long time. But if you're heading down, everything you need is coming up. Okay, the Vitality Stadium. If you're heading there on train, Bournemouth Station, that's your obvious one to head to. There is a local one called Folkestone, which is much closer to the ground. It's 1 stop out of the main station, and there's a nice little pub just outside. If you're driving down, there's a decent sized car park for the size of the stadium at the ground itself. And at the time of recording, it was £1 on a match day if you show your valid ticket, which is brilliant, to be fair. There's another option above the Sovereign Centre. That one will set you back about £2.50 for the afternoon. Sweep tiny goals will get you to the entrance to the one at the stadium. And for the Sovereign Centre, you want to be around the back, and Wages, Bonds, Learn will get you where you need to be for getting into that one. If you are planning to stay over, it's a seaside resort, so there's tons and tons of options. Moving on to pubs, if you are staying over in the town centre and fancy a Wetherspoons in the morning for breakfast, you can find the Moon in the Square at Spoon Lunch Bleat. Now, they won't let you in with your football shirts on, at least not open. They will let you in with a jacket over your football shirt, even if they know you've got a football shirt on. Closer to the ground, if you are making your way from the town, they're pretty small venues. One called Maroy's and the other across the road called Mellow Mellow. I prefer Maroy's. You can watch the early game in there if it's on, and if it's full, Hill, cross the road. If you parked at the shopping centre, they're just outside there, and Glue Gravy proper will get you to the footpath between the two pubs. And if you've come in via Folkestone Station, right outside you've got the Bell pub on the corner. They had a barbecue on when we were there last. It's mixed. You get both groups of fans in there. Everyone gets on. It's a great atmosphere, and easy event claims will get you to the front door. Once you're ready to head up to the ground, it's about 10-15 minutes walk. Just walk along the main road and then follow the locals. You want to be at the right hand side of the stadium as you're looking at it. Post Public Cherry will find you the turnstiles that you need to be at, and it's a decent little stadium. It's little is the operative word. The concourse, it's okay for a little stadium. I've been in much tighter, smaller concourses, but you walk straight out to pitch side and you really do get that next to the touchline feel. But yeah, enjoy your day. I've been Paul. Thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next one. Cheers.
The floor is yours, Joseph.
Thank you, Stephen. It's looking a bit tight this for Sunday. Bournemouth are favourites to win the game, but only just. They are 7-5. We are 9-5. So there's not much in it, to be honest. The draw, which actually I'd take now, to be honest, that is 12-5. So not a bad price actually. Just over 2-1, just under 3-1, depending on which way you want to look at it. Start with Bournemouth 1-0, 8-1, 2-0, 11-1, and the reverse penman is 16-1. If you think it'll be a draw, 0-0 is 11-1, and 1-1, which I might have a look at personally, is 11-2. If you think we'll pull the win off, 1-0 Newcastle, 17-2. 2-0 is 12-1, which I thought was a great price, and the actual penman is 20-1 for a 3-1 win to Newcastle. Evan Nilsson, Semenyo, and Kluivert are all featured in the goal scoring markets, but I like David Brooks. I think he's a very, very good player, and he is 11-2. But enough about them. Big Nick 6-4 to continue his league form. Harvey Barnes 5-2, and Anthony Elanga 3-1. Big Dan Byrne is my season-long bet. He is 12-1 at the back post. 9-2, if you think there'll be a red card. And Big Joe is just under 2-1 to pick up the obligatory yellow card. The North East treble this weekend, there's some tough games, but if you're going to follow the North East treble this weekend, it is 21-1, starting with Middlesbrough shortly to beat West Brom. Look after your money. There is some decent prices there, but don't go too wild because I think it'll be a tough game.
Thank you, Joseph. Okay, we'll go around the table and see what the lads think about the match of the weekend. Mitch, guaranteed to be changes. We know Gordon won't play. Sounds as if we could be without Fabian Shaw, obviously through concussion, and Kieran Trippier potentially out. Jacob Murphy carrying an Achilles problem, which isn't mentioned elsewhere, but Eddie mentioned it last night, that he had a tight Achilles, so I would imagine he'll have a rest as well, potentially for this week and Wednesday's game. But yeah, we've got a squad though, Mitch. We have players we can bring in those positions.
We do. Of all the places to go after the game against Barcelona, I wouldn't have ideally picked Bournemouth to be the one. It is a difficult place to go. I think you've got to take your hats off to them for the amount of talent they've sold this summer, that they remain viable and still look like a decent side playing decent football. You know, they've shown in games this season already that they still have a degree of fight and they have a degree of no shortage of talent going forward, and they seem reasonably well organised. And that's not really what you want on the back of a Thursday night Champions League game, but that's what makes the difference between good teams and not so good teams, is the ability to go away and cope with something like that. So it's a nice test for the squad. I think you're right. I think we'll see more than a small bit of rotation, and that's not a bad thing. I don't think that's a bad thing at all. As I was saying, I think we saw a little hint of the future in the game against Barcelona, and we might get a bit more of that at the weekend. So it's certainly not something that we should fear for certain. But we know that if we're not on my game, they can hurt me. They've shown that last season, even with the amount of changes that they've had in terms of personnel. So we'll have to be on my mettle.
Have you got the dice this week?
I have. And the dice says an exhilarating and enthralling 0-0.
What do you reckon?
1 apiece.
Okay, 1-1. I'm going to go 1-1 as well. Joe, thoughts on the game?
Tough game. They're a good side. They're a very good side. They proved that last season. They absolutely tore us apart last season. We couldn't live with them. I really, really like Semenyo. And I don't usually talk about the opposition overly, but I really, really do like him. I could see why allegedly ourselves, amongst others, were looking at him. He's a very, very strong, quick lad, and he knows where the goal is. So it'll be tough. Like I say, what was the impact of last night? However, we do have a good bench. Didn't really mention Joe Willock earlier. I thought he was really good when he came on. Chow looked good. So this, Lewis Hall hasn't played much yet. So there are things we can do that hopefully will freshen it up a little bit. But I think given the start of the season, given the grueling 97, 98 minutes we had last night, would I take a point against a very good Bournemouth side? Probably. The optimist in me, would like to think we would be good enough to get something, but recent games have kind of disproved that. So all in all, I'd be happy. I'd be delighted with a 1-0 win. I was going to say it'll be 1-1, especially at that price, but since you two have said it, I'll be a touch more optimistic and I say we'll win 1-0.
1-0. Okay, George?
Well, the thing about Bournemouth is that at both ends of the pitch, they've sold a lot of good talent. I mean, they sold a centre-back that I would have loved to come to us, to be honest, and other people. And yet there they are doing what they do, like they did last year. So, and the forward that Joe mentioned, I can see why we were interested in him. So it isn't going to be an easy game, but on the other hand, we put ourselves where we are because we're a good team, and Neil said it, good teams win these matches, and we've got to win this one really in that sense. So it's not going to be easy. We'll see I think we'll see a quite different team, but for once we've got a bench that would do that without having much fear. And so I'm the usual optimistic self, and it's 2-1 Newcastle for me, as ever.
Okay, other game that we've got before we're back next week is Carabao Cup. It's always difficult to predict, where we're going to be, what scores are going to be when we haven't played on Sunday. So just a simple question, will we progress against Bradford, Mitch?
I'd be exceptionally disappointed if we don't.
Yeah. So, you think we've got more than enough to do that? Same question to you, lads. Joe, George, you expect us to progress?
Yeah, they've made a good start to the season, but in terms of expectation, and as defending champions, may I remind the nation, I'd like to think we'll beat them. So, let William Asula score and let's just get through it. We've just got to get through it, haven't we? Let's get in the hat for the next round. I'm confident, Steve. I think we'll win 2-0 at least.
Yeah, George, Malcolm said the one thing they should do, Supermax said on Wednesday, was take the trophy into the dressing room, plonk it down on the side, and Eddie Howe should just say, lads, this is yours to lose.
Absolutely. And I've got no doubt, with my optimistic self that we'll progress, and it'll be a nice result. I suspect could be one of those games where the things we're trying to do suddenly come off. And as Joe said, Bradford's had a good start to the season, but in their league, they're not in our league. So 2-1, not 2-1. That's Bournemouth. Sorry. Or at least 3-0 for me.
Okay, good. So before we finish tonight, we have got time for one of these. day I met, where we asked you to send in photographs of you meeting somebody from Newcastle United, whether it's a player or somebody who works behind the scenes. But there's only one person today, wasn't there, we could include, and that's with Mozart and Alan, Tino Aspria, outside St James's Park, the last time that he visited the ground. But thank you for sending that in, you two, and I hope you're enjoying your holiday. Big thanks to everybody watching on Twitter. If you are watching on Twitter and you've enjoyed what you've seen, jump onto YouTube, search NUFC Matters and hit the subscribe button. It is free and we do 7 shows a week. Back in the morning, 10 o'clock with Three's a Crowd, the North East Football Podcast. And then on Sunday, back with the professionals at the earlier time of 11 a.m. for an hour.
Can I have a quick 30 seconds, Steve?
Yes, go on, mate.
You know, I've sit here and saying about, bleating about the lack of opportunities for kids for football in Wallsend. Well, my old school, Neil's old school, Burnside High School in Wallsend, have started a football academy for any girls and boys over 7 years of age, and I couldn't be more delighted. The current chairman messaged me to let me know, and I couldn't have been more delighted. So there you are. There's an opportunity that is for football in Wallsend for kids.
Lovely stuff. Fantastic. Great to have you on, lads. Thanks to George. Thanks to Joe and to Mitch. Let's hope Steve Hasty gets to his destination in one piece, and we'll look forward to welcoming him back next Friday. Have a good weekend. Enjoy the football. See you in the morning on Three's a Crowd. Take care, lads.
See you guys.
Good to see you, lads. Good to see you.
Attack. It feels like I've been talking to myself again, but it's the only way you're ever gonna learn. You look back and it's all in the past. I'm dwelling on the thoughts I cannot say to you. If I don't say the words, then maybe it's not true.